Mode 1.
You know the trouble with people today? Nobody's honest anymore. You know anybody that's honest?
No.
Because there ain't nobody. I'll tell you a story. When I was in 3rd grade, I was standing in line for lunch or something, and I cut in front of this girl, Celeste Scalini was her name. She was real pretty. She used to sit right across from me. Anyway, I cut in front of her, right? She turns around and looks at me and she says, "You're an asshole." Now that's honest.
She called you an asshole?
Right.
What'd you do?
I told her to shut the fuck up. It's pretty good for 3rd grade, huh? I learned that from my old man. But that's not the point. The point is she was honest. She said what was on her mind. You should have been there, Lenny. It was great.
Yeah.
She was beautiful. Celeste. Wonder what she's doing now. Hey. What do you think of that? Good, aren't you? You better believe it. Watch this.
Where you going?
I'm gonna kill her with fucking honesty, man. If you're reading Cinderella, I'm the handsome prince. My name's Jack. What's yours?
Corinda.
Corinda. What a beautiful name. What is that, Irish?
No, it's Maltesian.
Maltesian. Corinda, can I be honest with you for a moment?
Sure.
You know, there's a serious problem with people today. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but nobody's honest anymore. I mean, there's no more sincerity left in the world. No more openness. No more compassion. No more understanding. No more anything. It's all gone. Do you sense what I'm trying to say?
I think so.
You see, everybody is so concerned with making that damn buck that we lose our perspective of one another. And human contact, if any, is virtually non-existent. You see, everybody has a face. I have a face for you, and you have a face for me. And in the process of all these different faces, we lose perspective of our real face. And then we become distant, because we feel nobody likes us. And then we become insensitive, because we lose trust for one another. And then finally, we become very lonely, because we feel nobody trusts us. You wanna fuck?
Where?
Now I know y'all dripping 3 videos in a row. Yeah. For one of the first times in a long time, I'm doing 3 videos in a row. To recent memory, I can't remember the last time I did 3 videos in a row. There was a point in the last few months where I've done 3 videos in 4 days. As many as 3 videos in 4 days, or 3 videos in 5 days. But it's been a while since the last time I did 3 videos in a row. Now, unlike my last 2 videos on Saturday and Sunday, which both were just under an hour, this one I can pretty much guarantee you is going to be no more than roughly 30 minutes because I have a doctor's appointment this morning that I have to leave in about roughly 35 to 40 minutes. So this video should be no longer than 30 minutes. But it's going to be related, yet and still. Like, my last 2 videos were primarily prompted by a live stream I did on Friday that was hosted by the young brother named Ramil Amir. And because it was about 4 or 5 hours, there was so much that was talked about that I keep thinking about little things that were talked about during that live stream that I want to kind of offer further commentary on or elaborate on. And one thing that was interesting, there was a brother on there. I can't remember his name. I want to say he goes by the name Brother Fantastic. And what was interesting about one of his commentary, he admitted, for all practical purposes, that he was a hater of my Mode 1 approach and why he was a hater of my Mode 1 approach. He said he didn't become familiar with me until roughly about a year ago. And he basically said, and I'll be paraphrasing his words, but he basically said, Alan, I don't really have a problem with you personally. But he said, I do have a problem with your Mode 1 approach. And he said, the main problem I have with your Mode 1 approach is you make it seem like the Mode 1 approach is the boldest, ballsiest, requiring the biggest balls and backbone approach out there. And he said, I don't think that the effectiveness of approach can be measured by how, by how bold or ballsy it is. He said, for me, I measure the effectiveness of an approach with women by how strategic it is. How strategic it is. And he basically went on to say, he said, I don't think Mode 1 is really strategic. Yeah, it may be bold and stuff, but it ain't strategic. And so I don't think other guys choose other methods of approaching women because they don't have as big of balls as you. It's because they want to be strategic. Now, again, these weren't his exact word for word verbatim. I did quite a bit of paraphrasing, but essentially that's what he said. And this, if you remember, this goes back to when I was at the 21 convention in 2018, which was my second appearance at the 21 convention. I remember right after my speaking presentation, I had a circle of guys around me. I had probably, I don't know, about 7, 8, 9 guys that were kind of like circled around me, and I was in the middle of the circle. Matter of fact, pretty much a lot of the speakers, I'd say at least half the speakers would have that happen to them after they got finished speaking. The guys who were fans, followers, and supporters of theirs would kind of find them within 20 to 30 minutes after their speaking presentation and ask them questions. So I had these guys kind of circled around me, and this one guy approached me, and he said, Alan, you might be the most unique speaker here at the 21 convention. And I said, really? I said, now I can see you saying that last year because last year I was the only black speaker. So that without question made me unique. And then the guys, chuckled over that. But I said, this year there's at least a couple of other black speakers, such as Ed Lattimore and Donovan Sharp. So what makes me so unique? And he said, well, the biggest thing that makes you unique is that just about all the other speakers here, they have far more female haters and critics than they do male haters and critics. They have far more female haters and critics than they do male haters and critics. But you, from what I know about you and have been observing about you, you have way more male haters and critics than you do female haters and critics. Matter of fact, when you were just speaking in there was one point during your presentation where the few women in the audience actually gave you a standing ovation. So it's obvious women love you, but a lot of men, it seems, can't stand you, or if not you personally, they can't stand the advice you give and whatnot. And he said, why do you think that is? So I was getting ready to respond, but then this other guy jumped in. And again, I told this story at least once on YouTube within a couple weeks after that 21 convention in October 2018. So this is my second time telling this story. But before I could respond to this guy, another guy interjected. He said, I know why. He said, I know why Alan has far more male haters and critics than he does female haters and critics. And of course, everybody's like, okay, why? He said, I think there's a few reasons, but he said, one of the biggest reasons why guys are always going to dislike Alan's Mode 1 approach is for at least two reasons. Number one, Alan is exposing how dishonest, disingenuous, and manipulative guys are. It's like he's throwing in guys' face that you are a liar. You are a manipulator. And most importantly, you are a verbal coward. And he said no guy likes to feel like he's a verbal coward. Even the guys who can tolerate being labeled a liar or manipulator do not want to be labeled a verbal coward. And he said, so Alan's Mode 1 approach, you have to have a big set of balls to execute Alan's Mode 1 approach. You have to. It's like not even an option. It's a requirement. He said you have to have a high degree of confidence, courage, big ass balls, strong backbone to execute his approach. And most men don't have that type of confidence, courage, balls, or backbone. And he said, so in simple terms, Alan's approach makes every other method of approaching women seem wimpy and cowardly. And because most guys are macho, they don't like that. Now, going back to Friday's discussion, again, this guy who goes by the name Brother Fantastic, he more or less admitted that. He more or less admitted what that guy said at the 21 convention. He basically said, that's the number one thing I don't like about your Mode 1 approach. He said, because it makes all other types of approaches seem like they're wimpy compared to your approach, that they're cowardly compared to your approach. And he tried to argue, he said, I don't think other approaches are more wimpy or cowardly than the Mode 1 approach. I just think there's other approaches that are more strategic. Well, with all due respect to Brother Fantastic, he's wrong. Mode 1, that is what makes Mode 1 stand out. You gotta have balls to be Mode 1. That's the one mandatory requirement of Mode 1. You gotta have balls. You gotta have balls and backbone. I emphasize that in both my Mode 1 book and my Who Said Again book. I say in order to execute Mode 1, the Mode 1 approach, you gotta have balls and backbone. You gotta have balls. What balls is the same thing as saying courage. Yeah, Balls is the same thing as saying a combination of confidence and courage. The combination of confidence and courage equals balls. See, I explained this before. The word bold, you always hear me use the word bold a lot. To be bold means anytime you do something that has a high percentage chance of failure, that means you're bold. If you go inside, if you're a firefighter and you go inside a burning building, knowing that there is at least a 75% chance you might die of burns, third-degree burns, or smoke inhalation, then that means as a firefighter, that would be a bold move for you to go into that burning building, knowing that there's over a 50% chance that you could die. Now, if you were a firefighter and you went into a building where the flames were minimal and there was a less than 5% chance that you could get physically harmed or die, then that wouldn't be as bold because there's no chance of failure. So the number one way you measure how bold someone is when they do something is by what are the high chances of this person failing by what they do. When you use a Mode 1 approach, and even more specifically a Mode 1 hardcore approach, there is a high percentage chance that you're going to be instantaneously and straightforwardly rejected by a woman. There's going to be a high percentage chance that you're going to receive some harsh, subjective criticisms from that woman, some personal insults from that woman, and just generally some negative reactions from that woman. That's what makes it bold. See, any approach you use where there's that lowers the chance that you will have a harsh or abrupt rejection is not as bold. And any method of approaching women that lowers the chance that you will be criticized, insulted, or receive a negative reaction is not as bold. It could be strategic, but it ain't bold. Not only would I say that compared to Mode 1 hardcore, that no other method of approaching women and initiating a conversation with them is as bold or as ballsy. But I would say even with my other three variations of Mode 1, which would be Mode 0, regular or conventional Mode 1, or even Mode 1.5, I would say all three of those variations require a higher degree of boldness, confidence, courage, and balls and backbone than any other method of approaching women out there. I'll start with Mode 0. Mode 0, as you know, that's my variation of Mode 1. That's basically when you're Mode 1 with a woman after she approaches you first and after she initiates a conversation with you first. And then after she initiates the conversation, you let her know in an upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest manner that you want to hook up with her to be intimate with her, whether it's within the context of a long-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, short-term monogamous, or short-term non-monogamous. Speaking of that, I was visiting the comment section of a certain person, and one of my followers asked this guy straight up, he said, because the guy was hating on Mode 1, so he said, if Mode 1 is not the best method out there, what would you say is the best method of connecting with women? And this guy said, the best method of connecting with women is just to become the best version of yourself, focus on your purpose. No, let me reverse that. I think he said focus on your purpose first. He said focus on your purpose, basically, immerse yourself in self-improvement and personal development. So he said, focus on your purpose, become the best version of yourself, and then just sit back and let women come to you first. Let all the women who are interested in you make the first move on you and come to you first. Got something on got food on my mouth? Oh, shit. My bad. Now, I've addressed that in at least 2 videos. I've addressed this in at least 2 videos. One, I did a video about choosing signals, which is a popular talking point of alpha male strategies, as well as a lot of other guys in the manosphere. I did a video talking about choosing signals, when they're valid and when they're not valid. And then I did another video about guys here in the manosphere who keep talking about the best method of connecting with women is waiting for them to come to you. In simple terms, that's bullshit. It's bullshit. And I don't want to get too lengthy. Go back and watch those 2 videos. But if I had to summarize 2 things I have with that, using that method of waiting for women to come to you. Number 1, as far as the concept of choosing signals, there's different types of choosing signals. So a lot of guys act like there's only one type of choosing signal. There's at least 4 different types of choosing signals, and I pointed that out in that video. A woman can choose you to be her casual fuck buddy, her casual sex lover / fuck buddy. A woman could choose you to be her long-term boyfriend or future husband. A woman could choose you to be a sugar daddy or exclusively some type of financial provider for her, pay-for-play partner, or a woman could choose you to be her purely platonic friend. Just because a woman makes the first move on you does not automatically mean that she wants to be in a romantic relationship with you or that she wants to have casual sex with you. It does not. I'll put money behind it. I'll bet anybody money who's willing to bet me. It does not. A lot of guys act like if a woman makes the first move on you and approaches you first and initiates the conversation with you first, that automatically means she wants to have casual sex with you. No, it don't. Or they automatically think it means she wants to be your next girlfriend or future wife. No, it don't. No, it don't. A lot of the women who I am now platonic friends with made the first move on me, but they never gave me no pussy. I can name a number of women who approached me first, initiated conversation with me first, and their number one desire was just simply to be platonic friends with me. So that's bullshit about all women who approach you first are definitely interested. That's not true. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Second reason why that method is bullshit. And I pointed this out in that second video I did. Realistically, if we're being really realistic, the only women that are going to make the first move on you, either for casual sex or for a long-term romantic relationship, is men that are either above average to exceptionally good looking, above average and exceptionally good looking, rich and famous. You're rich and famous. Or third, you have a reputation that precedes you. You have a reputation that precedes you. This is what I call referral pussy. In other words, you fucked a woman so good that she told 2 or 3 of her girlfriends, and now those 2 or 3 of her girlfriends want to give you some pussy because you have a reputation that precedes herself. That's only 3 times women are typically going to approach you first, particularly for casual sex. That's the only 3 times a woman is going to approach you first, particularly for casual sex, is if you're like exceptionally good looking, number 1. Number 2, you're a rich, famous celebrity like a professional athlete or an entertainment industry celebrity. Or number 3, if you have a sexual reputation that precedes you. Other than those 3 situations, ain't no woman going to approach you first, particularly for casual sex. And the number 1 reason why is because most women are dreadfully afraid of being labeled a hoe or a slut. No, the average woman does not want to be labeled a hoe or a slut. That's why you have wholesome pretenders. That's why you have erotic hypocrites. Women are very protective of their public image and their social reputation. So for guys that say the best method out there is just to focus on your purpose, become the best version of yourself, and sit back and wait for women to come to you first, that's bullshit. I'm telling you, again, I'll put money up against anybody. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. But yeah, what I was saying, mode 0, that's when you let a woman approach you first and initiate a conversation with you first, and then you proceed to be mode 1. You can be mode 1 hardcore after that point, regular mode 1, or mode 1.5. Regular mode 1. That takes more balls than any other method out there. Because you're clarifying what type of companionship you really want. That's the main difference between mode 1 and mode 2. See, with mode 2 does require some degree of confidence and courage, because you got to have at least enough confidence and courage to approach a woman, and you have to have enough confidence and courage to initiate a conversation with her. But where the difference comes in between mode 1 and mode 2, when you're mode 2, you're confident enough to let a woman know that you find her physically attractive and or sexually appealing, but you're not bold enough to specifically clarify what type of companionship you want. You're not bold enough to clarify what specific type of companionship you want. For example, long-term monogamous, long-term non-monogamous, short-term monogamous, short-term non-monogamous. You're vague and ambiguous when it comes to what type of sexual companionship you're looking for. When you're mode 1, you let women know specifically what you're looking for. Are you looking for long-term or short-term sex? Are you looking for monogamous or non-monogamous sex? See, that's part of being mode 1. You clarify what type of companionship you want, or in the case of mode 1.5, which type of sexual companionship you don't want. Like even mode 1.5, you don't use any profanity, you don't use any R-rated, X-rated, or triple X-rated sexually explicit language, but you still have to be bold in clarifying what you want and or what you don't want. Mode 2 doesn't do that. Mode 3 is even worse. It don't take no confidence or courage whatsoever to be mode 3. When you're mode 3, you're either one or two things. You're either a liar and a manipulator, or you're a verbal coward. You're either a liar and a manipulator, or you're a verbal coward. One of the two when you're mode 3. You're either a blatant liar and a blatant manipulator, cheater and adulterer, or you're just a verbal coward, which takes no balls and backbone whatsoever. So there you go. It does. Mode 1 requires a higher degree of confidence, courage, balls and backbone, and overall boldness than any other method of approaching women and connecting with women out there. Facts. So the fact of the matter is, yes, I will maintain that the mode 1 approach is the ballsiest approach out there. There ain't no approach ballsier than mode 1. And I would say there's definitely no approach ballsier than the mode 1 hardcore approach. There's not any approach out there that's ballsy. What is bolder than going up to a woman and within the first 5 seconds of conversation telling that woman, I want to fuck the shit out of you. You are attractive, you sexy, and I want to fuck the shit out of you. What's bolder than that? What is bolder than that? Again, to this brother fantastic argument, you can say there's other methods that might be more clever and strategic. But when it comes to balls out confidence, what method is bolder than that? But I was glad he said what he said, because again, he just validated what that guy said at the 21 convention. That guy said at the 21 convention, I've always known that deep down myself. He said, yeah, man, I think that's the reason why so many men hate on the mode 1 approach, is again, because one, you're causing men to face the facts that they really want to be liars with women and manipulators with women. That's number one. You're forcing men to face the fact that they really deep down want to be a liar with women and a manipulator with women in order to get them in bed. And number two, probably more importantly, you're exposing the fact that most men are verbal cowards. They're profoundly afraid of rejection, and particularly harsh, abrupt, instantaneous, and straightforward type rejection. I've always said that most guys can handle delayed rejection and or polite rejection. Most men can handle rejection that's delayed and or polite. But most men cannot handle, the average man in society, they cannot handle rejection that's harsh, abrupt, instantaneous, and or too straightforward and blunt. Most men can't handle that. In other words, that's what conventional PUAs, they actually call that being blown out the water. That was their nickname for that. I remember I was at a conference and these PUAs kept talking about, you never want to be blown out the water. You never want to be blown out the water. Yeah, that's a lot of conventional PUA terms for being rejected, like in the first 2 to 3 minutes after you start talking to a woman. They feel like if you get rejected within the first 2 to 3 minutes after you start initiate a conversation with a woman, that means you were blown out of the water. And most conventional PUAs, they actually advised against that. So they would encourage men to engage in flattering, entertaining small talk for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Because they said you never want to get blown out. See, I feel just the opposite. I want to be blown out the water in PUA speak. I want to be blown out the water. Why? Because I'm going to drop a fact on you that I've dropped before, but I feel like it needs to be dropped again. Here's the reality that a lot of you men don't realize. At least 50%, if not more, of the women you meet in your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month lives do not want to reject you. Let me repeat that. Of all the women you're going to meet in your life that are not interested in being in a romantic relationship with you and that are not interested in engaging in one or more episodes of casual sex with you, do not want to reject you. See, a lot of guys have this impression that women are like rubbing their hands together, anxious to reject them. When the reality is, it's just the opposite. And that's the simple reason why you have manipulative time wasters. That's why you have my archetype of manipulative time. Most women do not. Between the two, there are more women who desire to be a manipulative time waster than there are women who want to be just a flat out rejecter. And the simple reason why is because most women, even if they're not interested in being in a romantic relationship with you or engaging in one or more episodes of casual sex with you, they still want flattering, entertaining, and emotionally empathetic attention from you. Facts. Most women want flattering, entertaining, and emotionally empathetic attention from you. I talk about that in the first 4 chapters of The Possibility of Sex. Second thing they want, if they're materialistic, they want access, if only temporary access, to your financial generosity, your overall wealth, and your material possessions before they reject you. So that's the thing with manipulative time wasters. Manipulative time wasters don't want to reject you straight up because then they limit their own access to your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship, and they limit access to your financial generosity, your wealth, and material possessions. So they want, in simple terms, they want to play you before they reject you. They want to manipulate you before they reject you. That's what they want to do. They want to manipulate you before they reject you. Whether it's for a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, or even in some cases, a few months. They want to manipulate you first, toy with you first, and then reject you. And a lot of you guys don't seem to realize. Matter of fact, I mentioned Big Mike, I think in my next to last video. He was talking about this. And I remember, here I go bringing up his name again, but Alpha Male Strategies, I remember he tried to suggest that the reason I'm all about straightforward honesty with women is because I'm trying to be Mr. Morals and Values, Mr. Ethics, and I'm trying to please and appease women. Insert dog face here. Nah, bro, that ain't it. And see, Big Mike, he gets more respect from me because he picked up on it. He talked about it on a video over in his channel yesterday because he was talking about the live stream I participated in last Friday. And Big Mike was telling his audience, he said, a lot of guys have this mistaken belief that Alan, the ARC, is about being honest with women for the sake of the women. He said, no. He said, the reason why Alan ARC promotes upfront, straightforward honesty is to protect himself, is to prevent himself from being played by a woman. This goes back also to the live stream. I was mentioning to the guys on the panel that I used to work in Hollywood. I had a number of short-term and long-term temp assignments in almost all the major movie and TV studios. Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, Universal, NBC, 20th Century Fox, Sony, Columbia. Almost all the major studios. I don't think I ever had a permanent job, but I had a number of short-term temp assignments, like that might have been like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Then I had some others that were more long-term, that were like 6 months or longer. Some of them over a year. Like 20th Century Fox. I worked for 20th Century Fox for like over 2 years. But yeah, a lot of the departments I used to be in at some of these studios when I would do these temp assignments would be like 90% women. Sometimes, there was a couple times where I was actually one of only 2 guys working in the department. All the rest were women. And more specifically, they were gorgeous women. Just about all the women I would work with at these movie studios and TV studios were women who were like, on that scale from 1 to 10, were 8s, 9s, and 10s. A lot of them looked like Victoria's Secret models or Playboy Centerfold models. Beautiful faces, beautiful bodies. And the thing is, a good percentage of them, like during their lunch break or right after lunch, they would brag. I would hear certain women bragging about how they just got finished taking advantage of a guy, financially and materialistically. Like there was women who had guys paying their car note on a month-to-month basis, but yet they hadn't even had sex with that guy yet, which was mind-blowing to me. There were women who said some other guys were paying their mortgage or their rent for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and they hadn't had sex with that guy, oral sex or intercourse, which was mind-blowing to me. That some of these women had guys buying them all kinds of expensive jewelry, like a diamond necklace and shit, or expensive clothes, but yet they hadn't had sex with those guys yet. And I would basically have to interject and be like, how the fuck are y'all getting away with this shit? I had gotten to a point where, I was pretty cool with a lot of these women, so they would let me join their conversations a lot of times. And I would be like, basically like, how the fuck you getting away with this shit? And without getting too lengthy, they would basically break down to me, which is what I explain in my book, The Possibility of Sex, and what I tried to explain to these guys on this live stream on Friday. They basically let me know in so many words. They were like, Alan, you want to know how not to get played by a woman like me? Is to do what you told us you do. You're very upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest with women about what you want and how quickly you want it. And see, they basically said in their own way, they basically like, we can't play a guy like you with your Mode 1 approach. We can't play a guy like you. They said basically the 2 types of guys that are easy for them to manipulate is either a guy who really don't know what he want. He don't know what he want. He don't know if he want friendship, a long-term romantic relationship that'll lead to marriage, or simply casual sex. He's like indecisive. He's an indecisive motherfucker. They basically was like, that guy is easy to manipulate. An indecisive guy, and along with that, a guy who's vague and ambiguous, which under my parameters of my teachings would be Mode 2. They said a guy who's a combination of indecisive and vague and ambiguous is easy to manipulate. Particularly, they said, if you're a beautiful, sexy woman. Now, they were basically trying to say, if you're an ugly chick, maybe not. But if you like a woman that's a 7, 8, 9, or 10, and you're dealing with a guy that's in a combination of indecisive and vague and ambiguous, he's going to be generally easy to manipulate. Second type of guy, they said, is easy to manipulate is a guy that does know what he wants, but he doesn't have the confidence or courage, the balls or backbone to straightforwardly say it. For example, he wants casual sex, but he doesn't have the confidence or courage to just come right out and say that shit. They was like, that guy's easy to manipulate. And again, they basically acknowledged, they was like, Alan, from what you've told us about your stories of women, see, we couldn't manipulate you because you just come right out with what you want. You come right out and say, hey, I want casual sex. Either give it to me or not. If you're not, I'm going to leave you alone. I ain't going to spend no money on you. I ain't going to take you to dinner. I ain't going to buy you shit. I ain't going to spend no time with you non-sexually. Either you give me casual sex or you're not. If you're not, I ain't doing shit for you. And they was like, they basically said, your type of man frustrates women like us. Matter of fact, if you've read or listened to my audiobook version of Possibility of Sex, there's a story in there. I'm not going to go into details, but there's a story about this woman I had an interaction with at an apartment in Chicago. And she basically said the same thing. She was a manipulative time waster type, a cock-teasing, manipulative time waster type. And when she realized that I was a Mole 1 type of guy, she basically came out and said, I hate guys like you. That's what she literally said. She said, I hate guys like you. And I said, to fuck with her, I said, I love you too. She said, no, really, I hate guys like you. And of course, I indulged her. I humored her. I said, okay, why do you hate guys like me? She said, because guys like you, talking about guys who are very upfront, specific, and straightforward, i.e. Mole 1, she said, guys like you prevent women like me from using our feminine charms. She said, most women like to use their feminine charms to take advantage of men's desire to have sex with us. And I said, so essentially you saying you hate guys like me because you can't manipulate me. And she was reluctant to acknowledge what she called the M word. She said, I wouldn't go as far as to use the M word. But really, that's what she was saying. But yeah, she said, I don't like guys like you. She said, I'm going to tell you something if you don't know this already. And it was something I did already know. But she said, most women, particularly women who are good looking, sexy, basically women that a lot of guys want to get in bed. She said, we're socially trained to use our feminine charms to take advantage of you guys. That's basically what she said. She came clean about it. She said, we're trained. She said, that's what makes life interesting for beautiful, sexy women, is we want to, in simple, blunt terms, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, basically she said, we get enjoyment out of fucking with you guys. In other words, making you think you're going to get some pussy when you're actually not. She said, that's like, for most women, that's like a sport. That's like a sport. She said, we get off on that shit. We get off on being attention whores and cock teasers and making you guys believe that y'all got at least a 5% chance of getting in our pants when we know in reality y'all got a 0% chance of getting our pants. She said that's essentially like a sport. And guys like you, meaning Mole 1 guys, she said, you type of guys fuck that up. You force us to have to say, yes, I'm interested in having sex with you, or no, I'm not interested in having sex with you. And she said, women like me don't like that. And I just smirked at her and I said, I know.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive. Your intonations are the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice. How you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Currie, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God!
God, man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy's the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.